Stonehenge revisited. Stonehenge analysed in a new fashion. We'll look at Stonehenge here, out on the A303, 33 for masonry. Now I find this quite peculiar actually, because look at this huge plain. Now we know plains are pretty inhospitable places actually, where it's that open without any trees or mountains, you get strong winds. Now it's a long way, it seems, to any village in Stonehenge. So I wonder, because I'd say to myself, wouldn't there be a village close? Wouldn't you build something like this, a sort of, maybe a brisk walk, a fair walk, but not miles and miles and miles from the nearest villages? Because you want to go and have rituals and things there. What are people going to take a day to travel there each time? Back in the time when it was supposed to be built, when most people walked, or at the very best rode a horse and cart. No, this is ridiculous. This has been built in the middle of nowhere, the same as the dinosaurs, because that's the way they could hide it. Most people aren't out in this area, and I'm sure that this is a fairly new road that they've built to come past it for tourism, and built this nice little facility. In the day, the road no doubt went probably over here, and they were able to build this up, and then they've put the road nearby, which no doubt created a lot of controversy, I seem to remember. It makes a nice little view when you're driving past, or you pull up at the car park and probably pay money, I don't know. But it generates tourism and a lot of money. It's the busiest tourist attraction nearly going. So the same with the Great Pyramids, and they will have to be covered in another video. We just look at Stonehenge here, but I'm very suspect on these pyramids. There's one in Rome that seems to give it away. But back to Stonehenge. Now there's blatant pictures of them taking it all away and putting it back, and taking it away and putting it back. But how did they get there to start with? Let's look at some of those images though. Yes, there's a lot of images of this stuff here, and it's getting taken all away and then put back. And this is just here, happens to be a Barmer's visit. There is a video about this visit, and they pick up on this idea here, which is rather unusual, you must admit. Doesn't that one look bodgy? It doesn't fit the top. And there's old pictures, old alleged pictures. This one from 1877. Now, I think it might go back to, the 1800s, but the thing is very unusual about it is there's no mention in Shakespeare. Now, Shakespeare for sure would have mentioned it. You think about it, wouldn't he now? I mean, he wrote all about English history, and he neglected to tell us about this thing, the greatest thing going in English history. It definitely seems to look different over the ages though. When they rebuilt it, they certainly gave it a bit of a different style, and you can see where they concreted them all in. Here's some old depictions. Yeah, this is from the Stonehenge fraud, showing that. Look, it does look rather different, doesn't it? So it's like an artist's impression of what it may look like too. It could be that in the thing. Interesting image, that one. Looks like Looning. Look at this old image here. Now that looks more complete, doesn't it? Now it's hardly going to have deteriorated since people were looking after it, weren't they, at this time? That's a really bad one there. That's a real bad one. Supposed to be 1877. Let's see what it just says about that. No, it's just covering the stuff. You may have seen some of this, some people. I'll just put a little bit of this on. Now, this is a Russian thing. Now, you can imagine the Russians could have just made this all up too, you see. Part of, overall little deceptions on deception. And then people say, oh, look, the Russians made it, sort of hiding something else. Always very difficult with these things because there just hasn't been enough research done. That's the big problem in this world. Yeah, there's something wrong with this too, I reckon, Nelly, Seems to be too much infrastructure around. Like this is a cocked up thing the Russians have done probably. See, there's so many layers here always. But I think that's the best one, just that picture itself. It just seems more complete, doesn't it? And it's supposed to be 1877. Look here. Let's just bring this up here. So real leaning stone, that much, as they call it. Just doesn't look right, does it? Just doesn't look like the modern pictures. So get something a bit more modern on it. Yeah, here's a picture of it. Oh, and over here. That's supposed to be an older picture of it. 1920. Yeah, it's supposed to have a few times here, allegedly pulled it apart and whatever. They've got that marked out again, that bit that's missing. And see, that's a lot different to the guys riding the horses, isn't it? So there you go. That must have been the artist's impression, that one back in the old days. Look. More complete. That about seals it. There's something definitely all wrong with this, isn't there? It can't have fallen down more in just that time. And I said, such a national treasure. By this time, they were saving all sorts of things already. They were starting to get that type of idea happening. Well, this would have been the number one thing. Push the British, we are the master race idea. Look what we built a long time ago. Notice there's a 7 on this too. Very nice. Yes, I'm afraid an elaborate hoax to build up all this Arthurian legend and Druid stuff, bring it up into prominence, and give it all an age thing. As I said, I really think the native Europeans were quite different. Let's have one little look at what I think they might have looked like. Yes, these people are called Lapps and Sami, and they occur in Sweden and Norway, etc. Now, they're very like the people of Siberia, of course. Uralic people, you might say, and also like the North American Indians to a point. Definitely more European. I mean, they've mixed in now. Look, these ones don't look much different to Europeans, but traditionally they're more Indian looking. You can see that in some of these older pictures. Look at these ones here. So there you go. This is what native Europeans look like, I reckon. They just got pushed out. People will say, oh, no way. Well, look, they still exist today. And just right up in the north where they got pushed to. That is something that should have been covered more. And of course, by saying the Colosseum in Egypt, it gives the European idea. And Greece and its Parthenon. That's all been added later to make it look like the white man has been all over Europe much longer. Quite an interesting idea, isn't it? Then they do call people Caucasian, don't they? It's on my license, probably on yours. Unless you're of some other race watching this, which is possible, of course. And But this is what it's like, you see. We just don't get any sort of truth. But I had some Swedes in my house and they were telling me about it, and I already knew about it. And when I heard them telling me, I thought, this is deeper. And that was 10 years ago. I can clearly see, I reckon that's what we're looking at. And then you've got to fraud up your history and make it look longer. Otherwise, these people might make a land claim.